Hello everyone and welcome back guys to a brand new video where today we're here back with round 5 of our F1 Manager 22 career mode. Yesterday we returned here for the all new Miami Grand Prix. Of course, if you missed out on the video that went live last night, I would highly recommend going back and checking out. Of course, we went back to Emilia Romagna Grand Prix, of course, the first of 2 home races this year for Ferrari, and yes, safe to say, so far this year, we've been doing pretty well. Now, unfortunately, since that last video, the team principal of Ferrari has had a small issue. We're gonna address the elephant in the room quickly. I cut myself shaving. That's what it is. I'm not quite probably people at Ferrari back in the 80s. I'm not doing cocaine or anything like that just yet. Maybe if we win the World Championship. But that has very quickly gone on to a divergence I was not expecting it to. But yes, today we return for the Miami Grand Prix, of course, round 5 of the year, and safe to say so far, this championship has been going very well for us. Like I said, definitely would recommend going back and checking out Imola from yesterday night. But yeah, as well, of course, I just want to say a massive thank you to all of you for the insane and continued support on this series. No, like I said, we've ticked through 80,000 subscribers now. But, you know, if you're enjoying this and you're not already, please do consider getting yourself subscribed. Of course, trying to hit 100k by the end of 2022. But yeah, heading though into this weekend, then we have got a few different things we've got to try and go through. Of course, we've got the all-new CFD simulator upgrades have now all been sorted, as well as the team hub. And we've also got some upgrades that are almost finished as well there. So aerodynamic testing restrictions will be ending in 1 week. So we can then try and use a bit more of the wind tunnel and the CFD simulator. We've then obviously got the normal sort of standard interviews from last weekend there. And again, the board are incredibly happy with what we're doing so far this year. And rightfully so. You know, we've been doing very well at the start of this campaign. So in terms then of car developments, we still can't quite build any new parts at the moment. I think we have still got a couple of things in the works. If I have a look quickly, we can't quite see actually when those parts are meant to be sorted. That was a new regulation vote that of course we went through last weekend. And then of course, yeah, we have still got a few other bits and pieces there. I'm not too sure, actually. There we go. So the front wing design will be complete in the middle of May. And then the underfloor will actually be completed right ready for the Monaco Grand Prix in a couple of race weekends' time. So yeah, we're still struggling a little bit to try and build up more parts on the car. I think the only thing we can really do, actually, is can we hire more engineers? That's all I'm thinking at the moment. Sadly, we can't. Unless we upgrade the facility. No, apparently we can still only have 10 engineers there. Any other upgrades then we probably want to be doing before we head into Miami this weekend? I suppose we could try and go for a factory upgrade there. $11 million, but you know, Ferrari, we like to spend the money, everything like that. It means we can manufacture more car parts, and of course we will have a much improved development speed as well. So 100 days that'll take, but we are trying to keep the upgrades going at this stage of the year there. Can we upgrade... Oh, see, we can upgrade the design center as well. And then I'm thinking down the line, we might be able to then use more engineers to try and get more parts onto the car. So we'll confirm that one through as well. They're spending a lot of money at this stage of the year. In terms of cost cap then, we have still got 100 million remaining. But, you know, we are certainly spending the pennies still at this stage of the year there. As can we try and get a full breakdown? I don't think we can. There we go. This is what I was looking for. So yeah, March was pretty low on spending. April, we're not looking too bad at the moment, but of course that is going to skyrocket once we get those projects going. But yeah, having a look at the future projections, we still should be comfortably in the green come the end of the year. And if anything, that's quite important.
We're in the state of year-round summer. It's the Miami Grand Prix, and we're here in Florida at the Miami International Autodrome. The streets of Miami Gardens will come alive with the roar of racing, and the excitement is only just beginning. Spectacle is the name of the game here in Miami, with a stadium at the heart of this track. With long straights and S-bends, not unlike Suzuka's Sector 1, proper ERS management is sure to give drivers an edge towards victory. We might still be early in the season, but that doesn't mean we can sit back and relax. Everything is up for grabs, and nothing is certain at this stage. So, without further ado, let's get started.
Right, well here we are then, back in Miami, and it looks like we are going to see finally some changeable conditions here on F1 Manager. Heavy rain predicted throughout Friday's running, and that is going to make things a bit more interesting, of course, because we're going to have to try some different setup tweaks ready for Saturday morning practice. So yeah, things are then going to get slightly interesting here in Miami this weekend. Of course, the team and both drivers are very, very confident with all the car parts we've got at the moment. But of course, it is just really a focus on what sort of setup path we want to take the car this weekend, of course, as it looks like we're completely dry early on in the session. So we'll have to wait and see as to how things go. As car setup then, trying to think, Miami, we probably still want, there's a lot of high downforce through the first sector, but then, well, it's quite a lot of high-speed corners, high downforce first sector. The middle sector has got, obviously, that huge back straight, and then, of course, the very tight technical twisty bit, and then, of course, the final sector is basically just the huge straight. So, yeah, that is going to make things interesting around this circuit there, as it looks like the game really actually doesn't want me to run particularly aggressive straight line speed. We'll try that on Leclerc's car first of all, see how it goes, and we'll try some different things on Carlos's. So I think all the teams then are definitely aware, free practice 1 before the rain does arrive. We've just got to try and get as much in as we possibly can. Of course, everyone needs to try and gather as much data as possible here, as we'll wait and see what Leclerc and Carlos Sainz can do. Of course, first time ever they've been to the Miami Grand Prix here on F1 Manager, so track experience and getting as many laps in is going to be absolutely vital this weekend there, as Carlos Sainz heads down in towards turn 1. Well, yeah, like I said, we'll see how they get on. Maybe we might see the rain appear in free practice 2. Of course, we'll let the AI sort of simulate through that later on. But yeah, we'll wait and see what happens here. This is a big step into the unknown this weekend. Of course, new track, changeable conditions. Things could get spicy. So that's something very, very cool then. For the first time, if I'm not mistaken, here on F1 Manager, we've actually got Nick de Vries out in the Mercedes there, of course, as their development driver. As their reserve driver, even, I should say. So nice to see, Nick de Vries getting some track time in. But weird, new circuit that Mercedes aren't trying to get Hamilton, it's George Russell even, trying to get him all settled in with the car. But each to their own, I suppose. But 20 minutes into the session, Sainz fastest there, 6 thousandths ahead of Charles Leclerc. Oh, what's gone on there? We've got an AlphaTauri going round. How on earth have they managed that? Everyone just trying to watch out. No idea what's happened there. Yuki Tsunoda off into the barriers. Has he looped it around, or has he gone into the back of the Aston Martin in front of him? Just sat right under him. And that's a costly error from Yuki Tsunoda. There are a lot of cars very, very close behind, but not what Yuki needs. Like I said, new venue, everything like that, as we've got both of our cars trying to make moves on other people here. It's like a car park down in through Sector 2 there, as I think this is, Charles Leclerc side by side with Sergio Perez. And he gets round him through the tight technical section. Love to see that. Just, again, playing the mind games down with Red Bull. Oh, first time ever then, we got a red flag on F1 Manager here. 15 minutes left to go of free practice 1 there. Lando Norris is potentially out of the session, and that's going to be the end of FP1 there. So yeah, not too sure what happened to Lando Norris, but for the first time this year then, Max Verstappen fastest at the end of free practice 1, just 6/1000ths of a second between Charles Leclerc and Carlos Sainz though, but we did get a lot of laps in, 24 laps, I think that was the most of anyone on the grid. We're just trying to get the drivers as much data as we can. Let's get into qualifying then here from Miami.
Our race weekend continues as we head into qualifying. There are no more chances to practice this weekend. It gets serious from now on in, as our teams prepare to record their best lap times ahead of tomorrow's race. One good lap isn't enough to guarantee a strong position, with consistency absolutely essential for those looking to succeed. Stay with us as we see who can deliver on motorsport's biggest stage.
Right, here we go then. Saturday from Miami, and you can see there Charles Leclerc struggling slightly behind Sergio Perez and Max Verstappen at the end of free practice 3. But Carlos Sainz still looking fast. So will this be another weekend, potentially, for the Spaniard to show his worth? We've got 3 sessions to get through. Again, I'm hoping Q1 and Q2 should be fairly easy to navigate. I mean, there's still an 8/10 gap back to Mercedes there behind us and Red Bull. So yeah, fingers crossed we can blitz through Q1 and Q2, as no grid penalties confirmed just yet. So here we go then. Charles Leclerc is going to be the first man to try and complete a lap in anger here of the all-new Miami Street Circuit. I'm just genuinely intrigued to see what this venue looks like on F1 Manager. You know, whether there's any big differences between this and the Codemasters Formula 1 games. There is through Turn 2 and Turn 3. Turn 3 is so difficult to try and keep it clean and tidy there. You can see he can drift out wide, right up towards the wall there for Charles Leclerc before you swing it back over through the next left and right sweepers there. This next left-hander seems to go on for an absolute eternity there. Just really struggle to try and get the car slowed down through there. I like to take a lot of curb on the exit, but I can understand why the AI are trying to avoid it here, especially in Q1. You know, we can afford to leave a couple of tenths on the table as well, though. So we'll try and monitor the timings, of course, as to what Carlos Sainz is able to do. But Leclerc purple through the first sector there. That's exactly what we want to see from the young Monegasque driver. Like we said, he struggled a little bit in qualifying, but we've actually got both setups in a very good window this weekend. It wasn't like at Imola, where both drivers were struggling slightly there. I mean, look how tight that chicane is, especially with those huge sausage curbs there. But out on towards the bypass here, the motorway, towards the end of the lap, though, for Charles Leclerc. He's going to be well over 300 kilometers an hour as he heads down in towards the final corner here. This Ferrari is no slouch down the straights there, 200 miles an hour before he slams on the anchors in towards the final big braking zone of the lap there. Of course, now you've just got a bit of a couple of nothing corners as you head back up towards the checkered flag. Charles Leclerc at the final corner. That is going to be a 1 minute 29.8 there. No faster than he was able to go in free practice 3. And will we see Carlos Sainz go any quicker than him? But look at that, 2 seconds clear of Hamilton, who I can't help but wonder might have had some small issues there. But yeah, Carlos Sainz, what's that, 8 thousandths down in Sector 1, 19 thousandths down in Sector 2. Will he be able to find any time in Sector 3 there? He's got one car in front of him that is trying to heat up their tyres, heading down in towards the final corner. That is one of the Red Bulls, so fingers crossed they stay out of his way, which it looks like they will. And as we ride on board then, Carlos Sainz heading out of the final corners. We'll go back into the third-person camera here and up towards the checkered flag. Carlos Sainz, is he going to go quicker than Charles Leclerc? No, he does not. But it was very close between them. 7/100ths of a second, but that should be us into Q2. And there we go then, Q1 times on the board, and look at that, Max Verstappen able to find just a little bit more pace there, 27 thousandths up as we head out of the first qualifying session. Now, I don't think we've got any major surprises. Lando Norris, I'm sure, again, gutted, tied actually with Mick Schumacher at the end of FP1. We don't see that all too often in the world of Formula 1, but Lando Norris out alongside both Astons and both Williams. Let's get into Q2. So yeah, it's very clear though still in the early days of F1 Manager that the aim of the game is just to make sure neither of your cars get held out into traffic there. As well, there's one of the Red Bulls coming out of the pit lane, but Charles Leclerc will be comfortably ahead of them. We have got a warning though on the powertrain on both Sainz and Leclerc's cars, so fingers crossed we've got no major issues there. It's just the gearbox getting pretty worn out, but still got 40% left on it. We might just have to take a penalty before next weekend's racing in Barcelona. Perez, though, immediately down back onto the 130s, but that is surely not going to be enough to safely see him through into Q2 there. As again, Leclerc, purple through Sector 1. That's what we want to see. Waiting for a representative, though, from Max Verstappen, who, of course, has just headed out of the pit lane. Is Sainz getting held in a bit of traffic? Yes, he is. I can already see that coming from a mile away. A gaggle of 3 cars. And we'll have to bring Sainz back in at the end of this run there. May as well just stay on board then with Charles Leclerc and see whether he can get a good lap in, so we only need to worry about putting the Spaniard out at the end of the run. And there we go then, Charles Leclerc around in the final corner, up towards the start-finish line. What is the time going to be? Again, it's down into the 29s. I think that's a 29.7 that time round. So both Leclerc and Verstappen really just trying to egg each other on to find a little bit more time there. But so far, the Monegasque man, we've said it so many times this year, but he is back on provisional, not quite provisional pole just yet, but he's fastest in Q2. Well, 6 minutes left then in the session. I just don't want Carlos Sainz having to deal with any major issues here as he lines up for his second run. Of course, it means if he does somehow get blocked again, which looking at the minimap, I don't think he will, then of course he would have time to go out for a run with everyone else at the end of the session there. But Verstappen or Perez not really able to get a fair representative then in this session so far, as Bottas now up at a P2 there. That's a brilliant lap by the Finn there. He is loving life down at Alfa Romeo at the start of this year. But SAINZ, like I said, looks like he's got still fairly clean real estate in front of him. He has got an Alpine and a Mercedes just up the road there, so we're right on board, heading down through the very, very fast. Like, it's technically a... That's fine, as long as the Mercedes doesn't block him as well. This is still recoverable as he heads down in towards the hairpin. Hamilton, why? SAINZ, when will he get any luck on F1 Manager? When? Please, I beg. And we're going to have to call him in again. Well, we've got yellow flags out late on in the session. Tsunoda's looped it round again down at turn 6 like he did yesterday. And has Tsunoda just done the same thing again there? Seems to really be struggling, perhaps carrying a bit too much from the rear end there. And yeah, loops it round again down at turn 6 for Yuki Tsunoda. The worry I have is, will that mean that Q2 running is effectively over for everyone? And will we have Carlos Sainz starting down in P15? I mean, that's not good. That's going to take a minute to clear up there for Yuki Tsunoda. Is he able to get it out of that barrier? Don't know if he is. I mean, we're getting more replays of it for whatever reason. You can just see there. I mean, he's on his outlap. How on earth has Yuki Tsunoda done that on his outlap? But yeah, can we get a last-ditch run in? Well, there we go then. Looks like Tsunoda was able to get the car going again. And I mean, that could have been quite funny if Tsunoda binning it on his outlap was going to make him get into Q3 there. But now we need a good lap from Carlos Sainz. No cars in front of him this time round. So surely this is going to be a lap that sees him into Q3. Sainz again, green in Sector 1, green in Sector 2. We've got checker flags out, so this will have to be the last run for Carlos Sainz here as he heads down in towards the final corners. No drama so far on this lap. We know he's got good pace in the car, but of course he just didn't want to take any big risks right at the end of the session there. At the final turn, up towards the checker flag. That's going to be a 29.8. That's going to be him safely through into Q3 there. And after, yeah, a little bit of worry earlier on in the session, as Sainz there just complaining about minor gearbox issue. Verstappen again, though, able to go fastest there, as Gasly, I think now maybe with some grid penalties, as K-Mag out in Q2, Daniel Ricciardo definitely out in Q2, Tsunoda will probably join him, as well as Zhou Guanyu and Mick Schumacher. But it really does look like Max Verstappen then at the moment just seems to have the measure of Charles Leclerc. But heading into Q3, Leclerc has got an extra set of soft compound tyres to try and use here. Can we try and upset Red Bull and take our 5th pole in a row? Right, well, we've had a couple of races so far this year that look like they are just between Charles Leclerc and Max Verstappen, but this might be the first qualifying session of the 2022 season where it really is just going to be the one Red Bull versus the one Ferrari here. And hopefully, again, Charles Leclerc, you know, every Q3, so far this year, he's had a bit of an upset in the first run and then somehow still delivered right in the dying stages of qualifying to put himself on pole position. 4 poles in a row. Like I've said before, you know, I do genuinely believe Charles Leclerc in real life is probably right up there as one of the best qualifiers we have on the grid at the moment. Just you get very, very few drivers that are able to extract as much as him over one lap there. And again, he is proving it at the moment. Purple through the first sector here as he heads down the back straightaway, opens up the DRS before you get ready for the hairpin. And let's just ride on board. Well, let's just, keep an eye out on Carlos Sainz as well there. Only green in Sector 1, but again, surely he's only thousandths away. No, he's 8/10 down there, so no idea what's happened to Carlos Sainz in the first sector, whether he's been held up slightly again by yet another car there. Ferrari just don't seem to be able to find clear track space, and the AI certainly are not willing to get out of the way all too often here on F1 Manager. So we'll stay with Charles Leclerc then as he heads down the freeway once more here. Just a couple more corners to go of the lap. So far so good, as you can just see all the bumps on the highway there. Max Verstappen again back down into the 27.9s though. We were purple in Sector 1, green in Sector 2 though, as Charles Leclerc rounds the final couple of corners. Will this be good enough to put him in provisional pole up towards the line? I think it is. I think that was a 29.6. Yes, it is. And he goes a 10th quicker than Max Verstappen, as I completely forgot to let Sainz come back into the pits. That was not my finest moment. So Charles Leclerc then is going to be the first man to start his last lap here from Miami Grand Prix qualifying. He's a 10th up on Max Verstappen at the moment, but neither Sainz or Perez has been able to get a good lap in themselves. So could we still see an upset from the Spaniard or the Mexican here right towards the end of the session here. We're going to ride on board, though, with Carlos Sainz, of course, down in P6 at the moment. I'm hoping he can get a lap in that can see himself move back up towards the front of the field here. I mean, theoretically, he could still get very, very close to Max Verstappen and Charles Leclerc, but he just seems to be lacking those extra couple of tenths you need right at the very top there, as we'll keep up with Charles Leclerc's delta at the moment there. Doesn't improve through Sector 1. I think that is all over for Charles Leclerc in this qualifying there. That's a good, 8 tenths away, I think, from the Sector 1 times we were really hoping for. As Charles Leclerc there, you can just see what is the time going to be from Carlos Sainz. It is, again, a 33.6, so actually Charles Leclerc not far away at all there at the end of Sector 1. But Sainz still improving. This is the important one at the moment, because I'm hoping Charles Leclerc has done enough to put himself on pole position once more here for the 5th time in a row on F1 Manager. But riding on board then, Carlos Sainz, as he navigates his way through the tight technical section of Sector 2 there. Of course, got to be super careful as you head through this chicane there. We have got a Red Bull just up in front. I don't think they're really going to give him much of a slipstream, though, as we head down the back straight. So, Carlos Sainz again improving through Sector 2 there, but still down on Leclerc in both of those sectors. So I think at the moment, it's looking like Sainz might only be able to push himself up into P3 there. Leclerc doesn't improve. He stays down, he stays on pole position at the moment. Sainz will be close, but I don't think it's quite going to be close enough there to really mess with the top two. We've got one of the Red Bulls coming through the final corner. That's Perez. He goes up into P3, but Sainz is immediately going to push him back down into P4 there. Max Verstappen right on board with the Dutchman as he heads through the final couple of corners. Will this be his first pole of the year? I don't think it is. No, it is not there. Max Verstappen does improve again, but can't quite match Charles Leclerc on one lap pacer. And how many times have we seen those two separated by less than a tenth of a second at the end of qualifying there? But every time so far, it's always Charles Leclerc that has only just got the edge. And there we go then, official confirmation. It was Max Verstappen fastest in Q1 and Q2 there, but Charles Leclerc able just to find that little bit extra right at the end of qualifying there. Sainz very, very consistent as well, only a tenth separating his 3 lap times, but Charles Leclerc, he just goes out there and finds more and more performance in this Ferrari. Let's get into it then. Round 5 of the year, the Miami Grand Prix, a new venue in Formula 1. Things could get very, very spicy. This channel is proudly sponsored by Bybit, the official crypto partner of Red Bull's Formula 1 team. I've been using their platform for my personal crypto savings over the last few months, and when they got in touch to support the channel, I was super, super excited. Currently, they're offering you guys a special new promo for the first 100 of you to deposit $10 or more onto the platform. You'll get another $10 free. Also, 5 lucky winners will get their initial deposit doubled up to $1,000. That means if you deposited $1,000 onto the platform using my codes below, you could be within a chance to get another $1,000 completely free. We've seen the landscape around crypto drastically change over the last couple of years, and I genuinely believe it holds an important place in our future. However, please be careful as always when trading, as you are liable to lose money. But if you're interested and you're 18 or older, click the link down below to get started and see why Red Bull and myself, as well as thousands of others, trust Bybit as their crypto.
Welcome to race day. And before we get down to it, last-minute checks are being made.
Ferrari performed brilliantly during qualifying and will be very pleased with their grid positions. But the challenge for them will be to keep the momentum going during the race. This weekend, Red Bull displayed promise during qualifying. Now they need to capitalize on their grid position and get a good race under their belts. The weather is very overcast here, and teams are staring at the sky watching for the first sign of rain. Strategies might have to be quite flexible going into today's race.
57 laps await our competitors here in Miami, so may the best driver win.
Right, well here we are then, Miami Grand Prix time, round 5 of the year, 57 laps ahead of us though, around this tight and technical venue. As again, the team talking about trying to split the strategies here between Charles Leclerc and Carlos Sainz. I think the one-stop mediums to hards is probably going to be the way to go though, pretty safely. But do we fancy mixing it up? Do we give Carlos Sainz the opportunity to try and impress us there? We're going to put him... Yeah, I don't really want to gamble it too much. You know, I start saying that, and then I get flashbacks to all the times Ferrari have done something stupid so far in real life 2022 there. So we're just going to keep them fairly sensible. Last weekend we mixed up the strategies, but I think tyre wear around Miami is going to be a little bit worse than it was at Imola. Let's get into it then. Miami Grand Prix.
A somewhat overcast day for the drivers who've now taken position on the grid. And there is Charles Leclerc. They're in P1. Let's see if they can take advantage of that position. And further back, there's SAINZ. Starting in third place, they're in a really good position for this race. Will their hard work pay off today? One of the newest races in F1, and hopefully one of the most exciting too. It's the Miami Grand Prix. And it's lights out, and away we go!
And look at that, immediately a blinding start for Carlos Sainz from P3 on the grid there. Up the inside of Max Verstappen into turn 1. Get your elbows out, Carlos. That is a fantastic job done by him immediately there. And Carlos Sainz straight up into P2 of the Grand Prix there. Gets the jump on Verstappen, and surely the Dutchman is going to be kicking himself in that moment there. Carlos Sainz straight up into second place there. Luckily we got a good view of it off the start, and again the Ferrari dream continues early on in this championship. Looking further down the order, looks like Perez has hung on to P4 ahead of both the Mercedes. Bottas still in 7th ahead of both Alpines there, with Gasly just ahead of Magnussen and Zhou Guanyu. No drama though by the looks of it on this opening. That was already Sainz potentially trying to apply some pressure to his teammate Charles Leclerc there as we head down the back straightaway. And I mean, Sainz, yeah, absolute dream start for him. Are we going to see him try to fight Leclerc early on in this race? He was a fantastic wingman last weekend, but I don't want to keep forcing him into feeling like he can only settle for P2 here. So I'm going to sit back. I'm going to let them race. If Sainz can get a run on Charles Leclerc, I'm going to let him have a chance there as we head out onto the back straightaway for the first time here. How strong is the slipstream going to be? Of course, no DRS just yet in this Grand Prix. We'll have to wait till lap 3 before, of course, the drivers can open up the rear wing behind Charles Leclerc there. But again, Leclerc, he's pretty much led the end of lap 1 at every single Grand Prix this year. I think Max Verstappen got the jump on him in Bahrain, but since then, yeah, Leclerc has just been in control early on in these races there, of course. Jeddah, Sainz did a fantastic job there, made the different strategy work. Charles Leclerc couldn't quite close it up enough by the end of the race there, but I'm waiting for a safety car at some point this year to screw us out of a good race position there. But end of lap 1, Sainz still all over the back of Charles Leclerc, but Max Verstappen just dropping back slightly, as well as Sergio Perez, who we've often seen just fall away from the top 3 early on in races. But yeah, Verstappen's going to have to try and keep the pressure on this weekend if he wants any chance of having a go at these Ferrari cars. We would love another 1-2 here, of course. Got back with a 1-2 last weekend at Imola after obviously Albert Park. Max Verstappen was finally able to disrupt us at the start of the year, but Sainz is looking hungry after missing out in qualifying yesterday. I think Sainz has got the bit between his teeth. Sainz certainly wants to push at this stage of the day. I'm going to let him see if he can get a run on Charles Leclerc up the back straight. If he can't do it now, then I'm going to tell him just to sit back and focus on the cars behind, because we already learned back in Bahrain, of course, that you don't want to let the drivers squabble too much and give the cars behind them more DRS than they're really owed. But here comes Carlos Sainz then. Is he gaining on Charles Leclerc down the back straight? No, it doesn't look like he is this time round. So we'll just tell him to sit back for now then. Won't make him push too hard in this race. And we will just say to him, don't fight your teammate. However, we won't warn him about defending from the cars behind just yet, because I tend to find that it just allows the AI just to fall back a lot more than sort of seems realistic on F1 Manager. But yeah, Sainz still all over the back of Charles Leclerc at the end of lap 2 as Max Verstappen is just hanging on to the coattails. But Perez already, like we've seen so many times this year, just cannot match the top 3. As this is going to be the telltale sign in this Grand Prix then. Carlos Sainz, will he now be able to get the run on Charles Leclerc there? Every time he seems to get slightly better traction out into the DRS zone, but of course now for the first time with that rear wing wide open, Carlos Sainz gaining on Charles Leclerc there, but just sits back for now. So I think, yeah, he's not going to battle with Charles Leclerc. That's exactly what we need early on in this race. Maybe he can act as a bit of a rear gunner behind, but do I let them race? I really don't know at the moment. You know what, let's go for it. Lap 4 of 57 here. There's a long way to go in this afternoon as Leclerc again has to try and defend from Sainz back into turn 1. But Sainz, if you've got the pace, I'm going to let you try and go for it. You deserve the wins as much as Leclerc. You're a team after all. We've got to let both drivers fight for this World Championship. So the other thing I'm noticing early on here is just how much spare fuel Carlos Sainz has got over over Charles Leclerc. He's got 5.2 laps extra as Leclerc's actually burning more fuel than you would expect him to. So I think Sainz actually might be the man that we need to focus on early on in this race. Maybe let Charles Leclerc let him get past Charles Leclerc. So we'll tell him, don't fight your teammate early on here. Sainz around street circuit seems to be very, very formidable. Of course, like we said, won at Jeddah and was very, very competitive throughout a lot of the early stages in Albert Park. But yeah, we've come to Miami. Sainz seems to be very, very good at the newer tracks there, as Leclerc will just immediately let him by then. But he's let Max Verstappen through as well. Maybe that is a good reason as to why not to use team orders too early on in this championship there, as Verstappen now all over the back of Sainz as we head down the back straight. We're going to have to let Sainz go for it. He's going to have to try and break free from Max Verstappen here and hope that Leclerc can try and stay close. As somehow now, what's going on? At the moment, Max Verstappen suddenly has jumped Carlos Sainz then in this Grand Prix through the first couple of corners there. I was trying to watch what Charles Leclerc was doing, but now Verstappen, out of nowhere, up into the lead of the Miami Grand Prix there. Gives Sainz a big old squeeze, but Sainz just backs out of it massively there. Has the Red Bull got a little bit more pace than they weren't willing to show in qualifying yesterday? And why on earth is one of our Ferrari mechanics got Max Verstappen's helmet? What on earth's happened there? Come on then, Carlos. Let's try and get you back up into the lead then of this race. I mean, we have still got a very, very quick car down the straights here. So Carlos Sainz again. Let's see what he's like with the DRS on Max Verstappen there. The rear wing opens up. And is Sainz gaining? Yes, he is, rather rapidly on Max Verstappen there as we head down the back straight. Go on, Carlos. Up the inside he goes at the end of lap 6 there. And that should be Ferrari back into the lead then of the Miami Grand Prix. But Verstappen, he's not done with it just yet. He has to slot back in as Carlos Sainz gets the run through the final couple of corners here. But here comes Verstappen once more as we head back down in towards turn 1 there. Charles Leclerc has got a fantastic view of this battle all unfolding just in front of him there. And will Sainz be able to hang on ahead of Verstappen there? Again, they're side by side, just like they were a couple of laps ago. And this time around, Sainz holds firm. Can Charles Leclerc try and get his elbows out as well? Not quite yet at the moment, as we might just tell him to try and push as well, as it is just a balancing act early on in this Grand Prix there. In terms of tyres strategy, I'd never even looked at that at the start. Perez on hards again, so trying what he did last weekend out in Imola. Hamilton as well on hards, Bottas on mediums, but no one gambling on the soft compound tyres there, as here comes Charles Leclerc on Max Verstappen as we head down the back straight. I'm going to tell him to go into overtake mode. Will he be able to have a look up the inside of the Dutchman? He thought about it. Charles Leclerc really thought about going for a send there, but thinks better of it. But surely, when we get back round to the back straightaway, he might be able to get a run on Max Verstappen. I feel like we have got slightly better top-end speed than those Red Bull cars at the moment, as Sainz is definitely taking a tiny bit more out of his tyres over the cars behind him. Let's see what Charles Leclerc can do now as we head out onto the back straightaway. Again, Max Verstappen, the Dutchman, just pulls away ever so slightly, and I can't help but feel without the DRS, obviously, with the DRS that Verstappen has got as well, Leclerc just can't quite get close enough. As Sainz under pressure, Verstappen baits a move to the inside there, but thinks better of it. Well, I have just told Carlos Sainz to defend from Max Verstappen here, as here comes the Dutchman once more on Carlos, but here comes Charles Leclerc on Max Verstappen as we head down the back straight there. I think they're just trying to box Max Verstappen in. He's not having any of it, but up the inside goes Charles Leclerc, down in towards the hairpin there. This could be a critical move early on in the Grand Prix, as Charles Leclerc trying to hook it up around the outside. He pulled off the move on Perez in practice, and now he's done it in the race as well there. So Charles Leclerc straight back up into P2 then, and again, it is 2 Ferraris against 1 Red Bull here. Max Verstappen desperately needs his teammate to try and help him out there, as I did tell Sainz not to try and hold cars back behind, but will Leclerc now be able to get a run on his teammate? Could it be 2 for the price of 1 for Charles Leclerc? He thinks about it up the inside of Carlos Sainz, but I think he's just going to slot back into P2 for now. But now we've got to try and break away from Max Verstappen. Do we get both drivers just to push a little bit more and see what's possible? Oh, here we go. Gearbox is showing a bit of wear there. Both cars are a little bit worried about potential gearbox issues, but around the outside, oh no! Charles Leclerc thinks about it around the outside of Carlos Sainz again, as these little battles like that we don't need. Moments where they just slow each other down there. We have built up a little gap over Max Verstappen behind there of about half a second, but that's not going to help us out at this stage of the day, and I'm a little bit worried that we're trying to micromanage both drivers a bit too much early on here. I think we've just got to let them race for a few laps, but I just want to try and get away from Max Verstappen here, because he could still really be a thorn in our side. Here goes Charles Leclerc, though, once more as we head down the back straight. I think this time round, in fact, no, what we're going to do, we're going to tell Leclerc to get back into balance, and we're going to tell him to hold the cars back, maybe try and let Sainz build up a little bit of breathing space, and then we'll go from there. So trying to implement a similar plan to what we did last weekend in Miami, but just now, sorry, last weekend at Imola even, but just the other way around here, as here comes Verstappen now on Charles Leclerc. We've given Sainz a couple of seconds of breathing room at the front of the field, but we're just telling Charles Leclerc, play defensive from Max Verstappen behind there. You know, we've got to try and let one of the cars break free. We've got no ERS though for Sainz. It accidentally left him in overtake mode, so that might explain why he was able to get so far away as quickly as he was. It was just small little things like that. But I'm still trying to learn the nuances on F1 Manager. But Verstappen again, you know, he doesn't like this. He knows exactly what we're trying to do at the front of the field here. But again, Charles Leclerc, he's one of, you know, I'd argue he's a pretty good defensive driver in the world of Formula 1. Of course, we've kind of got this new breed of very, very aggressive defenders in the sport at the moment, and Charles Leclerc, Max Verstappen, certainly right up there as two of the most pronounced. Here comes Max back around the outside of Charles Leclerc as we head down the back straight. Surely Leclerc can try and hang on to that one. He's got the inside through the next couple of corners, but Verstappen is again really going to try and get his elbows out at this stage of the day. So I think what we'll do, we'll keep Leclerc just behind him at the moment. Don't need to hold cars back, but as long as Leclerc can stay close to Verstappen, we'll monitor the gap to Sainz up the road and hope that they both don't start closing in. So fast forwarding on then, just over 1/4's distance into this race there, and the gap between Verstappen and Sainz is staying pretty even, but it looks like Charles Leclerc, I think, still wants to try and make places up at this stage. I'm just going to tell him just to play a little bit more balanced in terms of his energy and fuel usage here, as we'll just keep Leclerc behind Verstappen for now. Kind of want Verstappen to sort of feel like he has to use a lot of energy down the straight, but again, you know, he's not really gaining anything on Carlos Sainz here. If we can sort of give Sainz a 3-4 second lead at the front, and then at least to battle each other out later on, you know, we could find Leclerc, of course, might be a lot stronger later on in the afternoon, because he is saving the tyres a whole lot better than Carlos is. We have to give Carlos the breathing space at the front if he wants any chance to prove himself this afternoon. I think Charles Leclerc might just have made a little mistake then in this race, because suddenly the gap's opened up to 1.7 seconds between him and Max Verstappen, and it doesn't look like Verstappen's taking any time out of Sainz in that window. So I think, yeah, Charles Leclerc, just a small error. It's not the end of the world though, as yeah, actually almost at 1/3's distance at this stage now. Tyre wear's still looking pretty good. Sainz is still building up that gap. I think now the top three have sort of spaced out a little bit. We might just be able to sort of breathe for a moment and wait and see how we want to play the long game this afternoon. Having a bit of a look then further down the order, we've still got Hamilton and Sergio Perez in their huge battle that's been going on since the start of the race. Always nice to sort of see what else is going on around the grid there. Of course, now we have got the option on F1 Manager, as Hamilton can't quite make anything happen this time around, and then I think Fernando Alonso is holding up a big gaggle of cars here further back. Zhou Guanyu doing a brilliant job up in P9 there, just behind his teammate, and then yeah, this battle extends right down and out of the points, but yeah, we can afford just to sort of take a bit of a breather, watch how our drivers are doing as we get closer and closer to the pit window. I think it's only going to be a matter of 10 laps at most before we see Sainz in, and then Leclerc probably a couple of laps after that. There we go, lap 22. Team are now starting to talk strategy here, as I think Verstappen having a couple of small issues there. I didn't even realise Leclerc got past him for Verstappen to try and make another move. I'm guessing it was just back down the straightaway. Yeah, there we go. Max Verstappen up the inside of Leclerc, back down at the hairpin. But these two still battling each other has allowed Sainz to build up even more of a gap at the front. But I mean, I'm not telling Leclerc to push at this stage of the day. Let's just see a reaction from Ferrari. Still, we've got one of our crew wearing Max Verstappen's helmet. But yeah, we won't worry too much about that, I guess. Maybe he's off down to Red Bull next weekend at Spain. Here we go then, even more cool little options then that we've got on F1 Manager. You can even tell the drivers to avoid the curbs there. That'll help, of course, with the gearbox usage. Any other options? Yeah, of course, it is just those two to try and help with certain things. As whilst this is all going on, I'm just trying to watch and learn more and more about the game. Charles Leclerc is all over the back of Max Verstappen still, but yeah, not going to be long before we bring SAINZ into the pit lane there. Often you don't really want to get the drivers much below 30% tyre wear, so we'll get SAINZ to box in the end of the next one. I think Leclerc's still got a few more laps on his set of mediums. He has looked after him quite well, but of course SAINZ we have made him push, so we can try and build up the gap. So here we go then. One lap later, we're going to get Carlos Sainz even into the pit lane onto a fresh set of the hard compound tyres. There should be about a 2.4 second stop if everything runs perfectly, but Charles Leclerc and Max Verstappen really have spent a lot of the early afternoon tripping over each other. We could have tried to engineer it so it was Sainz and Verstappen trying to trip over each other a bit more, but you know, like I said, we've got to try and give both drivers a fair shot when we feel they are delivering there. And Sainz, you know, he was quite unlucky in qualifying. He did a very good job to still get the car P3 there at the end of the session. And into the pit lane then comes Carlos Sainz. Very, very tricky pit lane to try and navigate, actually, around this Miami circuit. Of course, Verstappen will then take the lead of the Grand Prix, but Sainz is going to have to push on his outlap here, because we have seen before how the hard tyres can often slow you down. Should come out ahead of Fernando Alonso, though. That was the kind of the gap I was looking at, but hopefully, in a weird way, a little bit behind Perez and Lewis Hamilton here, which it looks like he will. We'll bring Leclerc in probably end of next lap, lap 25, but we'll see when the Dutchman decides to box. There we go again then. Charles Leclerc has actually got the jump on Max Verstappen here. We'll tell him just to go back up into standard modes, but Sainz still in a bit of free track space at the moment as Verstappen trying to have a look back at the inside of Charles Leclerc down in towards the final corner. Fingers crossed these two aren't going to be battling and both trying to get into the pit lane there, which I think Verstappen is trying to come into the pits. So Verstappen, rather weirdly, backs out in that moment there. So that's what happens on F1 Manager if two cars try and pit side by side. But this is now going to be a battle of the pit crews here, as hopefully Charles Leclerc can stay out ahead of Carlos Sainz. A bit lackadaisical from the team, but still a 2.5 second stop. And Leclerc, he will re-emerge then. Sergio Perez has taken the lead of the race ahead of Lewis Hamilton. Of course, they're both trying to go long on their hard compound tyres, but Leclerc still now ahead of Max Verstappen here, as Sainz will have a bit of breathing room. Oh, look at that, Charles Leclerc. Can he get out ahead of the Mercedes of George Russell? Yes, he can. So again, Verstappen's going to get caught out in traffic here. We're going to tell Leclerc just to go for it on this lap to make sure he doesn't actually get jumped from the cars behind there. But poor Max Verstappen again getting caught out in slower traffic here. Will Charles Leclerc now be able to get himself back up and safely away from the Dutchman here and into P2? Obviously net P2 of the Grand Prix there, depending on what happens if we get a safety car later on. And it looks like Leclerc should be safe from the cars behind there. So brilliant job by Charles Leclerc there. I kind of forgot about that huge gaggle of cars there, because I mean Leclerc now is 8 seconds away from from Carlos Sainz's teammate just up the road. Carlos Sainz is getting closer and closer to Hamilton and Sergio Perez, but I don't think they should be an issue for a few more laps at very least. But yeah, we will probably have to try and get him to manually overtake them in just a moment. But Leclerc, that has worked out perfectly. Had Verstappen not lifted out into the pits, he could have been ahead of this gaggle of cars as well. Well, there we go. Lap 27, end of 27. Hamilton and Perez both into the pits there. So that is very, very early in this race for the hard compound runners to be boxing in. What tyres are they going on to? I mean, it's put us back up into 1 and 2 in the Grand Prix, but what tyres is Lewis Hamilton going on to then for the second half of this race? He's on medium, so they really want to try and take those a long way, unless they're two-stopping, which would be rather odd when you start on the hard tyres. However, that's meant for us though. We've now got a clear-cut lead at the front of the field there. Charles Leclerc still under a little bit of pressure from George Russell, but if we just get him to push a little bit more, then maybe he can try and break free, and we might not have to look back for the rest of the afternoon. Here we go. Hopefully no safety cars. We got yellow flags out as Verstappen now gets the jump on George Russell behind us. Sebastian Vettel, he just has not had the year so far in Aston Martin. And what has happened to Sebastian? Has he Sonoda'd it down at turn 6? Yes, he has, in a word there, and the wall has eaten his rear wing. Crofty there, that was a big crash, but I think Seb's been able to keep going, albeit down in 17th place. Well, there we go. Charles fastest again there, 1:34.0, as I think Verstappen just having a few issues with some slower cars has meant that he's now 6 seconds away from Charles Leclerc here. And again, it just looks like another story of Ferrari having enough just to keep Verstappen at bay early on. He then makes a bit of a strategy error through the pit phase, and then there's just no looking back for us. As, yeah, like I said, pretty much a 2/3 distance now in this Grand Prix. Things squaring up very, very nicely here in Miami. And can we just walk away with yet another 1-2? Or will Charles Leclerc get closer to Carlos Sainz as the rest of the race unfolds? Well, I'm still having to monitor Carlos Sainz here. 15 laps to go of the race, and every time I tell him to go back into balanced fuel mode, he does seem to suddenly then burn through a load of it, so he is having to conserve still late on in the race. The gap to Leclerc is down to 5 seconds, but yeah, every time Sainz does have to save more fuel, he seems to drop back a whole lot more. 15 to go, though, here in Miami, but Sainz might just be on for his second win of the year. Here we go, 10 laps to go then, Miami, and Sainz still, he's been conserving fuel like no tomorrow, and he still just can't seem to save any extra at this stage of the afternoon there. Gap to Leclerc's down to 3 seconds, and I don't really want to bring team orders into this late on, but Sainz simply isn't doing enough at the moment to try and save fuel that he desperately needs to get him to the checkered flag there. He's not far under, but I mean, if you're 0.1 laps under fuel, you might not make it to the finish line, and that's not what we need as a team here. Sainz, you have to save more, otherwise Leclerc is going to come back at you there. Finally, back into the green for Carlos Sainz here, but he's certainly making it difficult for himself. I mean, what am I meant to do at the moment? We're just going to have to let these two duke it out. Sainz is still not saving enough fuel at this stage of the day there, and I mean, if Leclerc feels he's got to run at him because he has managed it a whole lot better today, then can you blame me for letting him go for it? I mean, if he's going to actually get the job done, then that's the all-important thing here. We've got 10 seconds back to Verstappen in P3. Bottas is running a fantastic strategy in P4 there. Have they two stopped? Yeah, for some reason, Perez and Hamilton and all those other hard runners have actually two stopped in this Grand Prix there. But Sainz is not doing enough to save the fuel at this stage of the afternoon. And what am I meant to tell him? I mean, he's clearly not getting the job done. He's clearly not getting the picture. He's still under fuel. He's been conserving for about the last 15 laps. And I mean, Charles Leclerc's surely going to come at him now at this stage of the afternoon there. You can just see we're right on board with Charles Leclerc just behind him. And Sainz, he's not doing it. What on earth is Sainz not understanding here? He's still just under as we head out onto the back straightaway here. And will Charles Leclerc now fly past his teammate with just 6 laps to go of the Miami Grand Prix here? Like I said, you know, I'm not going to bring team orders into this. I'm going to let these two play it out as Sainz goes defensive on Charles Leclerc there. He tucks out of the slipstream, though, as we head down the straight. And Charles Leclerc to the outside of his Spanish teammate there. Will he be able to make the move work there? They're wheel to wheel through the final couple of corners as much as anything else. I hope these two don't come together at the moment. It's still side by side they go. Leclerc backs out of it for now, but I mean, what am I supposed to do now? 5 to go here on Miami's. We've got yellow flags out in Sector 1. Not too sure who's got issues there. They seem to have sorted themselves out. Just another car running wide, so we won't worry too much about that. But surely Leclerc, it was Zhou Guanyu running out wide apparently. He's still hanging on to P10 at the moment, but we've just got to let these two scrap it out, because at the moment, if Leclerc does get past Sainz, they're going to tell Sainz just to back out of it, because he is not saving fuel for whatever reason. Is this going to be the moment Charles Leclerc gets past Carlos Sainz then in this Grand Prix? You can see tucked right under the rear wing there of his teammate. Of course, makes it even easier to save fuel when you are the car behind me. Just lift and coast down the back straight. But Sainz still trying to get his elbows out late on in the day. And I mean, let me know down in the comments below what you guys think I would do in this scenario, because, like I said, I think it's only fair Sainz has led this race from start to now, but if Leclerc gets through, he's going to have to lift off and coast. I don't think I've told him to defend from the cars behind. No, I haven't, and I haven't told Leclerc anything either, so there certainly are no team orders at play, but 5 to go here in Miami. Will this now be the opportunity Charles Leclerc gets to move past his teammate Carlos Sainz? Here he's gaining as we head down the back straight, but again, he tries to have a look to the inside there of Carlos. Up the inside goes Charles Leclerc. He gets a big squeeze as we head through the final couple of corners here. Brilliant aerial shot as we head out the final turn, and there we go. Charles Leclerc, as we start lap 53 of 57, will take the lead of the Miami Grand Prix. Here is Carlos Sainz, though, trying to make something happen of it. Back down towards turn 1 there, can't quite hang on up the inside, and surely Sainz, you need to save fuel. we're going to have to bring him down into light tyre wear usage. Hopefully that'll help him save a little bit more. But what more am I meant to do? Well, heading into the final 2 laps of the Miami Grand Prix, it looks like SAINZ now, of course, with that slipstream in DRS, has been able to just save a little bit more fuel. There is riding just on Charles Leclerc's rear view mirrors. Not quite able to see any better angles of this one. But 2 laps to go then, and it is all still to play for between the 2 Ferrari drivers here. Again, I'm not putting team orders in. I'm not going to tell either of them to push. I'm not going to tell either of them to save late on in the afternoon here. We're going to let them duke it out and see who is going to come out on top here. For the first time ever this year, it is a proper Ferrari duel to the checkered flag, of course. Leclerc won back in Bahrain there after a bit of battling between them early on in the race. Carlos Sainz then took the win on alternate strategy back in Jeddah, as you can just see gaining on Charles Leclerc down the back straight, but he probably doesn't want to go for a move just there, as Zhou Guanyu's crashed down at turn 13. What's happened to Zhou Guanyu then? Very, very tight technical sector of the lap. Fingers crossed he's got out of the way there. It's just very, very weird crash for Zhou Guanyu, but not what they need at this stage of the day, as will he still be in the way of us as we head through that next couple of corners? No, it looks like Zhou Guanyu has been able to get out of the way here, but just over 1 lap to go then of the first ever Miami Grand Prix here, and Ferrari have once again delivered a show. It should be a 1-2 unless things go pear-shaped in towards the final lap of this Grand Prix there. Leclerc is aware of him though. He's going to go defensive as we head down the back straightaway here. Will Sainz get close enough this time round to try anything? No, he will not. He'll have a look to the outside and just try to take the racing line on the exit of the corner. But surely, I mean, who is going to come out on top in this race there? We've still got battles going on between Perez and Hamilton a little bit further back, but that's not what I'm worried about. At the moment, we're worried about potentially our 2 drivers coming together and potentially handing Max Verstappen a race victory here. 1 more lap to go of the Miami Grand Prix, and for the second time this season, it is going to come down to the wire between 2 drivers in Formula 1. Charles Leclerc has been involved in 2 late race battles so far in this championship, and it looks like today, at the moment, he's doing just about everything he needs to on this final lap. Both cars, though, have pushed. Sainz had the lead for a very, very long time there, but just hasn't been able to manage himself as best as we would have wanted there. Leclerc has done a much better job in that regard, but is Sainz going to be gaining once more as we head down the back straightaway here? Charles Leclerc is going to go defensive on his teammate here, but here comes Carlos Sainz to the outside, down in towards the hairpin. We've seen overtakes made here before so far today. They're side by side as we head through the technical middle sector here, and Carlos Sainz up into the lead of the Grand Prix he goes. We've got lap traffic just in the way. Will they potentially cause any more drama late on in the afternoon, or will they just give Sainz some DRS to try and defend himself here, as Charles Leclerc still sat right under the gearbox of his teammate as we head back out onto the motorway for the final time there, and it looks like Sainz has been gifted the DRS from Daniel Ricciardo just in front of him, and Daniel Ricciardo might just allow Carlos Sainz to win the Miami Grand Prix here today. I'm pulling my hair out at the end of this one, but Carlos Sainz round in the final corner. He's going to get held up by Ricciardo. What's going on? Leclerc is just about going to sit behind there, and Sainz will get the race victory.
And Sainz crosses the line first. He's taken the win. Let's see what happened there. And Carlos Sainz takes the win.
I don't think there was a single second of that race where they didn't believe they'd win it.
Well, there we go then. Carlos Sainz, for the second time this year, is a Grand Prix winner, of course, after a brilliant display back in Jeddah. I honestly thought, late on in the day, he just wasn't going to be able to save the fuel and was going to have to settle for P2. But Sainz, a last lap daring move on his teammate Charles Leclerc. Not quite what you want to see as a team manager in Formula 1, but I'm a firm believer in, especially at this stage of the year, whilst we have got clearly the best car on the grid, let them race, let them enjoy it as well, and of course let them both fight for race victories that they think they deserve. But yeah, let's fast forward on then and have a look at the final race order, and of course watch them spray the champagne.
What a fantastic result for Carlos Sainz. is a tremendous podium result. It's joy all around for the team. And with that, the SAINZ name remains engraved in F1 history. It was a hard-fought contest for all three drivers, each one securing precious points for their team. I don't think Ferrari will be too disappointed with that result.
Just a really solid showing out there, which is exactly what they needed.
After an intense weekend, the team ends in first place in the constructor standings.
Formula One will be back to Europe for the next round, on the shores of the Mediterranean, with some heated competition to look forward to in Spain.
Well, there we are then, the end of the Miami Grand Prix, and Carlos Sainz for the second time this year goes from third to first to walk away with the race victory there. Mercedes Lewis Hamilton, though, this time around picking up the fastest lap bonus point as they seem to be making more and more progress slowly towards the front of the field. But 0.3 of a second there between Sainz and Leclerc right at the checkered flag. Like I said, I honestly thought Sainz was going to give up the place to Leclerc and not be able to come back at him late on in the day. But once again, brilliant strategy there. Again, though, Red Bull, Max Verstappen just getting caught out. You know, had he been able to have a bit more of a fighting chance towards the end, I certainly think he could have got his elbows out and potentially upset Charles Leclerc there. But having a look further down the order, Bottas again gets between the Mercedes. Another fantastic job done by him. Gasly and Ocon rounding out the top 10. There was Zhou Guanyu just missing out in his Alfa Romeo there. And yeah, Daniel Ricciardo almost went from Carlos Sainz's best friend to his worst nightmare on the final lap of that race. Championship-wise, though, does mean the gap comes down again slightly at the top of the field. 13 points now, the gap between Sainz and Leclerc as we head back towards Europe. Verstappen still in P3 there, but only 11 points ahead of Sergio Perez. Bottas re-jumps Russell. Alonso with some good points jumps Gasly and his teammate Esteban Ocon. And of course, constructors-wise, we just again further extending that lead at the front. 215 points out of, I think, a maximum 220 in the first 5 races of the year. It's certainly been a dominant display and goes to show what Ferrari could do in 2022. But thank you all so much for watching this video. If you have enjoyed it, please do make sure you leave a like, get yourself subscribed as well, and we will return tomorrow, ready for round 6 of the year. We head back to Barcelona. Carlos Sainz's home Grand Prix, then followed up with Charles Leclerc's home Grand Prix. Things are certainly going to continue to be interesting. None of these videos would be possible without the help of our channel members, so a massive thank you to all of the names you see on your screens currently for helping support the channel. You can join them by clicking the join button down below, and yeah, thank you once again to everyone that continues all the insane support on my work.